Okay. I have a rose. I have therapy. In a little bit. Oh. I'm under stress. I know I'm not the only one that's under stress. I feel like pretty much all of us are under stress, and each of us has a different experience of the stress. And sometimes it's hard to see other people's stress. Sometimes I think we hide it from each other for a number of different reasons. And perhaps getting regular haircuts is one way that I kind of maybe distract myself or try to take attention away from my stress and put it onto the hairstyle. I don't know if that makes sense. It's almost like makeup, except hair. I suppose in some ways, perhaps getting a haircut for men is almost like getting makeup done, except more, well, temporary, except, I don't know if that makes sense. As I prepare for therapy, I had a conversation with somebody today. That was very frustrating. I don't want to get into the details, but sometimes people are trying to be supportive, but they don't actually take the time to really understand. It's more about giving advice and yeah, I know that some people are trying to do their best, but it feels like it's not really supportive, even though the intention is to support. I feel like that happens all the time, where people try to help, but then the ways that they give help are actually not helpful. It happens with compliments as well, where somebody thinks that they're giving a compliment because if they were to receive it, perhaps they would experience it as a compliment, but then it can actually feel like an insult, or it can bring up shame or difficult feelings in a way that is probably not intended, but is very real. I try to be very cautious about how I talk about other people's bodies, because I think that's one way that a lot of people can try to give compliments, but then the way that they're experienced can be quite difficult. And our bodies are so personal to us, and it's quite damaging to receive certain messages about body changes. And yeah, it's so tricky because we want to be seen, and we want to be complimented, and we want to compliment each other. And so many messages are about these ideas of how people are praised or shamed for our bodies. And I don't want I don't want to shame I don't want to shame anybody for their body. I have been told that when I asked somebody a question about their body, it brought up a lot of shame for somebody. And I asked the question out of genuine concern. It was with a lover, and I was noticing some marks on their body and asking about it out of genuine concern, and I ended up getting shamed. And I think it was really that me bringing attention to this part of their body brought up a lot of shame for them. And that was very difficult for both of us, even though I think we were both trying to do our best. And I would hope that there's space in healthy, loving relationships to ask questions from a place of wanting to support each other and also wanting to be safe, because I thought maybe this was some sort of a contagious skin condition. And my question was wanting to understand if perhaps there was something that could be picked up and passed between us. And yeah, it felt like there wasn't space to ask questions in that relationship without being punished, which is not a healthy dynamic, unfortunately. It's so difficult to share love or to share our body. It's a big deal. And I'm kind of shocked by how common hookup culture is and how many people are looking for a hookup. And through experiences like that, I have too much anxiety to feel safe and comfortable sharing my body in casual way with somebody that I don't really trust. It can be so difficult to build trust. And that toilet paper that I bought says that they're a brand that I can trust. And I don't know if I can really trust them until I use the toilet paper and see how it feels and experiment with the paper and see how it responds to different situations. And it can be difficult to know who we can trust. And sometimes people are trustworthy until they aren't, which is confusing and painful. And it can be so difficult to understand how cruel some people can be, or how inconsistent, because some people may not be cruel, but may not be able to be trustworthy and reliable. And I've had very negative experiences with some people who offered to be my daddy and then said that they loved me unconditionally, and then ultimately weren't really there for me and were focused on themselves. And I thought that we loved each other, and I really tried to be there for these people in a way that was so intense that I prioritized them over me, and I prioritized their needs before mine and their feelings, and I lost myself, and I made decisions that were not in alignment with my mental health and my physical health in order to prioritize their mental health and their physical health. For example, with one partner, the way that our bodies fit together was painful for me. And when I would try to express that there wasn't really space for us to problem solve around what I needed for my back pain, because talking about my pain in my body was, it just, I felt like I had to be silent about the back pain that I was experiencing from our touch. And so I was. And that person was supposed to be my daddy and was supposed to take care of me and made all these promises and was not able to follow through. And I'm so proud of myself for leaving those relationships and being single hasn't been easy. I used to be very codependent and stayed in relationships out of this need for companionship without realizing the harm that was happening by being in relationships where there wasn't really space for myself. And I'm grateful for this period of singleness because I can focus on myself now, and I don't have the same dynamic of putting so much attention into showing up for my partners and when I was giving so much to my partners, I wasn't giving enough to myself. And I thought that it was love. But now I realize that it wasn't love. Perhaps they loved how I cared for them, but I don't think they really loved me because there wasn't really space for me to have needs and boundaries to talk about my back pain and how we could problem solve to support my physical needs. I'm grateful to have left those relationships. And while I think they did cause significant harm, now I'm able to heal and to reconnect with myself and to find myself and to appreciate the little things and to find ways to make love that don't cause back pain and to really tune into my body in a way that I couldn't when I was trying to preserve those relationships. I'm proud of myself. I want to forgive myself for staying in those relationships as long as I did. And to celebrate learning to love myself and learning to love the little things in life. Like this rose. It's not perfect, and that's okay. I had my first Brazilian wax recently, and when I arrived at the salon. I don't know what to call it. I guess they weren't expecting a transgender person or a trans man. And I had said that I was when I made the appointment, but maybe that was not understood. And we had a conversation about whether or not I could get waxed. And I tried to advocate for myself because I wanted to be waxed. And the esthetician, I don't know what to call her. She was afraid of it not being perfect. At least that's what she said. And I told her I didn't expect perfection. And after we had that conversation, we were able to move forward. And she waxed me. And I feel like we connected through the waxing process. It was very intense and painful and kind of hilarious. And I feel like she did a really good job. My point is, I want to love myself. And I want to encourage all of us to love ourselves. And it can be difficult to love ourselves when we've had negative experiences or when people have said things or done things that are not fair or reasonable or healthy or safe. And I don't want to dismiss or minimize those experiences because they are so painful and real. And I want to hold space for that pain. And then I also want to hold space for pleasure. And I think it's possible to do both. And having some playfulness, I think, can be helpful. And I want to spin the wheel and see what the wheel suggests. Do you want to join me for a wheel spin? And maybe, who knows? Maybe we could have some fun. We will see. Spin the wheel. 3, 2, 1.